here we go. I don't know about sound-wise how this is going to be, or if there is any. So
What is sound anyway?
this is real loud. I
Deep.
apologize. And if there's no sound at all, I also apologize. You just have to listen to us talk. This game's soundtrack not as good as SteamWorld Dig 2's soundtrack. Also, this is on the stick after dark. With Joe Drilling,
I am here with Eric Allen.
Mike Hales,
Moshi Moshi.
and Kurt Adam.
I am here with all those people that just said they were here.
Yay!
Yeah.
But is anybody really here, man?
Does anybody really care?
No.
Wah, wah, boop,
Apparently,
boop,
there's
boop,
music.
boop.
It looks like there's sound going out, but I'm not hearing it for whatever reason. So I'll turn it way down, and then hopefully it's not too obnoxious.
It'll be fine. I will say the soundtrack is okay. The one track that I really love is the boss fight theme because it's this super cheesy, like Saturday morning story break metal, and it feels really earnest, and so I appreciate that about it. But it's true that the music is not that great, and I don't feel bad when I play the game portably and turn the sound off so I can listen to a podcast or something.
Yeah. I mean,
Hey, so SteamWorld Quest.
Nice
What do you think of this?
I don't know.
How far have you made it?
It's my least favorite of the SteamWorld games by a long shot so far. Not very far.
Yeah.
I'm not been playing very much of it.
I don't know that I can really disagree with you. I mean, the original Dig was also fairly rough.
It's pretty slow, but it's still like.
I checked it, and I heard the music. That it was much quieter than us talking.
Okay, that's good enough. That's all we need.
Sure, not that big of a deal. Yeah, the original SteamWorld Dig I found a little bit rough, and then Heist and Dig 2 were both just like fantastic. So
Yeah.
the bar is quite high.
Correct.
My impression of this game is that it is very polished and accessible for maybe people who haven't gotten into too many of these kind of card games. But yeah, I agree with you that it's a little too slow. I would say, if anything, the biggest problem that I have with it is the enemies just have way too many hit points.
Yeah, battles take a very long time.
Yeah. Are you playing on normal or hard?
I think this is just regular normal.
Okay. Well, you might want to bump it up to hard just because it makes the challenge a bit more interesting.
Yeah.
Like I don't know about you, but I have lost a few battles on hard, whereas I'm assuming you must just be steamrolling everything.
Come close to doing it. Haha.
I see what you did there. I feel like if the enemies are damage sponges on normal, turning it up to hard would just make it more tedious, though.
I don't think they have more hit points. I don't exactly know what the difference is. I think they probably do more damage to you. I just find that on hard, I at least have to be kind of thoughtful about the cards that I'm playing.
Right.
Which maybe it slows things down a little, but I think it's probably a worthwhile trade-off overall.
So that's what this game is, anyways. It is a card battling RPG game. I actually think that the most interesting thing, the thing that slows, it's not even the combat that's the slowest part for me. It's the writing, which is just laborious and kind of boring. Like the characters just talk a lot, but don't ever actually say anything.
I don't think I ever really was very enamored with the writing in previous Steam World games.
No, but it was like in SteamWorld Dig 2, you hardly ever even had to talk to anybody. You know, like you would just go into town and.
Yeah, I mean, in Heist, you didn't have to chat a lot.
Yeah.
There was a lot of solo spelunking.
If you wandered around, if you wandered around the ship, you could talk to people, but it was, a couple of lines.
Yeah, that's exactly how SteamWorld Dig 2 is. It's just like you go in, you talk to everybody in town, they all have their one or two lines of dialogue, and then you kind of get on with it. Whereas I feel like these characters are all talking to each other, and I just kind of wish that they would shut the fuck up.
I kind of wish this game had one of those things where whenever you pause it, it would just say like what you're supposed to be doing at any given time, because you do actually have to read a little bit in order to figure out where you're supposed to go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure if you just explored a bunch, you would find everything you needed, but yeah, I don't know. It's not great.
Yeah, it's disappointing because of how good SteamWorld Heist and SteamWorld Dig 2 were. I think is part of the problem. I do like the deck building stuff quite a bit. I think it's pretty clever as far as how it.
Well, certainly, I've never played a game where you have to mix multiple decks together like this.
Right. So each character has an 8-card deck, and then when you're doing the battles, the game kind of shuffles those together. And then you might have seen, like, if you play 3 cards by the same character, then usually you'll get, like, a bonus attack or a bonus buff or something.
Do the cards only work for the characters that brought them to the table?
Yeah, so each character has a set of basic attacks and special attacks, and each basic attack will give you one. If you look at the top of the screen, you see that line of cogs. So when you do a basic attack or a basic spell or a basic buff, you get one of those cogs. And then when you build up enough of those cogs, you can do a special attack. So you see, like, this ice attack takes one of those, and this brave buster attack takes 2 or whatever. So you kind of want.
I think that's an interesting system. I like the way it works because it forces you to build a deck that has a certain number of kind of boring basic cards in it. Because you won't be able to do anything cool if you don't build up your mana, basically.
Right. And so also each turn you can like cycle through like 2 other cards. You can try and discard some cards to try and find cards that you can use to chain together. I've also found 1 card so far, and I assume there's more, but the big frog toad looking guy has a card that if you pair one of his super powerful attacks with one of the sword guy's attacks, then they will do like he'll get like a bonus to his damage. I think it's this one, this Gigaton Punch, which I don't have enough stuff for, but there's like a little picture of the sword person next to it. So if you like chain those 2 together, then the damage and
then they'll do Slurp Cut.
Yes, exactly.
What I really
Slurp
wish
Cut.
is that when you did that, it did like Chrono Trigger style, like team up attacks,
animations.
But it doesn't do. I don't think it does anything like that. It just like.
I never actually used that card because it costs so many gears, so I never tried that particular one. But there are others that you get later on, so I don't want to spoil anything, but there is another character that I have in my party now, and actually the 4th character I find is a lot more interesting than the first ones.
Okay.
A lot more interplay between the abilities and the order that you play things in. So I think, I don't remember which chapter it is, but it doesn't take too long to get the extra character, and they definitely seem more advanced. So the sword lady is Armely, and she's extremely kind of basic with her attacks. It's just a lot of like hitting people, like buffing your damage and hitting is kind of all she does as far as I've seen. So as soon as I got the new character, I swapped her out for the new one, and I found that to be much more interesting.
Like there I did it, and so the Toad bot did like 111 damage instead of 70, which it normally would do. So it's like a pretty powerful thing. But it's like this game reminds me the most of the first Steamworld Dig, where it's like the mechanics are all very interesting, but the pace is a little bit too languid.
You're not using the fast forward button though.
Can you do that in battle?
Oh yeah.
I can do it in battle. Okay, that doesn't change.
Can and should
like
almost all the time.
It's really not the pace of the battles that's too slow. It's the pace of the.
Well, I think the pace of the battles is a little slow, honestly, because there are a lot of turns where you're just selecting 3 kind of rudimentary cards and waiting for them to play out.
Right. So yeah, you can hold the ZR button to make your characters like run in the thing, and also
they run on the map and they go faster in battle animations and things like that.
It's like an emulator speed up button, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's really good that they included it.
Because otherwise, the game would be impossibly slow.
So one of the combo attacks, well, not combo, but one of the chain attacks you can do is Copernica, the wizard. And I find that her thing where she does 3 moves in a row and then he gives everyone a shield on the team is just absurdly useful. So like a lot of the time I'll just do kind of boring stuff with her because I just want to get that buff at the end of the turn.
That's very good.
So it's nice to just be able to burn through the animations when you're just firing off a couple of kind of uninteresting attacks, or when you're just going to be hitting an enemy who's got so many hit points that you know that there's no way you're going to kill them this round, but you still got to whittle them down.
So what's the mechanic by which you get new cards? Do you have to buy them in like a shop? Do you get them when they drop?
Like a crafting thing where you get stuff when you win battles. You can use the crafting to build certain cards. You can. There's also.
You also find some.
Yeah, you find some in the world. There's like secret places. There's like an overworld map that you kind of you can explore. And then there is just a shop where you can straight up buy cards. And so far, those are the ways that I've seen.
And you also get some just as the story progresses.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like, my mage just got a card that it's a basic attack that she plays, and then it just generates gears over the next few turns. which is kind of cool because it gives you a chance to use more of the interesting attacks in the same fight.
What's up with the piano roll at the bottom of all the cards? What is that?
They're punch cards.
Yeah, they're punch cards. It's like old computer punch cards.
Gotcha.
Basically.
Okay, I gotcha.
Steampunk, dude.
I like it. I like that.
It looks great.
Yep.
I think the game is beautiful.
Yep.
It just I agree with you that it's very interesting, the mechanics that they've built, but the game just feels a little too plodding and the fights are a little too long. It's still good, and I haven't given up on it.
I think
I'm hoping that if I push forward and get more deck building options, it's going to be more interesting to just tweak my party setup.
Yeah,
You would
I
say,
think I
Mike.
unfortunately maybe have given up on it, which is a shame. 'Cause,
I'll let you
But
know
you're-
if I
but
think
you're
it gets
playing it
really
tonight.
good.
Mike, so you would say that this is not on the level of Slay the Spire for you?
No. Slay the Spire is the cool thing with Slay the Spire is all the different interactions you can get between the cards and the relics that you find. Like you finish a run in Slay the Spire and you might have picked up 20 relics and, you've got 30, 40 cards in your deck and you can get some really, really cool chains and kind of feedback effects happening. And that might happen in this game, except that I've been playing for about 5 hours and I'm kind of starting to see a little bit of that, but I wish it was coming faster. I really get the feeling that this game is made for people who haven't played a lot of those deck building RPGs as kind of like a friendly introductory game. And I think for those people, this is probably a really great game, but maybe it would be nice if we could kind of jump ahead to the more complex deck building earlier on. Kind of the same problem I had with Final Fantasy 12.
have you been
Where,
playing
like,
Hearthstone for 5 years? Click here to skip to the part of the game.
Yeah, exactly. Like there really should be an option to start you with like twice as many cards. Like I'm not afraid of deck building or something.
Yeah. Halt.
Like in Final Fantasy 12, there was the Gambit system where you could program your party members, but you have to play for like 40 hours before you start to get anything more interesting than use a fire spell on the guy who's weak to fire.
Yeah, that's all true.
It's like all they managed to do is take the button pressing out of standard RPG combat.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Also, there's some bad guys that lit this town on fire, and we're hurrying to try and save it. And they're just like verbally sparring with this guy, and it's just like these kind of flat jokes that just happen over and over and over again. That's all the
Yikes.
dialogue is like this.
it's a family-friendly RPG made by a bunch of people who speak English as a second language.
I didn't realize that they were English as a second language.
I think they're Swedes.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
It's funny because most of these games have songs with words in them, with like lyrics,
Yeah.
and there's a bit of an accent on the singers. But the soundtracks have been decent in the past.
SteamWorld Dig 2 has a fucking fantastic soundtrack. Because it's actually, so that game is, the soundtrack is largely by a guy named El Huervo, who he did a bunch of...
Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
guy. I actually have albums of his.
Yeah, he did a bunch of music for
Hotline
Hotline
Miami
Miami.
2, and what was Else Heart Not Break or whatever, that weird programming RPG thing that I've tried a couple of times to get into, but couldn't quite.
Didn't take.
No, it's really weird. It's like an adventure game. Anything with, as soon as you put programming in front of me, I'm like, I don't have time to really get into this. But
Programming's
it
so cool.
seems really interesting. It's a little like Baba Is You, like thing where you're actually like changing, like the stuff you're doing in the game is affecting the world as you're programming it, I believe. But
You're playing with the world rules rather than
that is
inside the
also-
world.
That also has like the dialogue is just too wordy and I don't know. It's a little laborious to sit through it all. Apparently, I rushed right through to the end of that one instead of exploring the whole map. So you can replay the maps at any time, which is kind of okay. I see you got 100.
Actually, I would say it's kind of a drag because there's all these hidden treasure chests scattered around, and if you don't find them, you kind of have to go back through and play them again. If you can run by a lot of the fights, but I find it kind of a pain. It's like I just want to find all the treasure boxes and not have to replay the whole level.
Well, the problem is that the treasure boxes are sometimes they have cards in them, and if the interesting part of the game is making decks, then you want access to as many cards as possible.
Right.
And so, like, a lot of the chests just have like healing items, or accessories that you can equip that will boost your attack power or whatever. Also, there's like this mechanic where this statue, it's a little like borrows a thing from Dark Souls, where these statues will refill your health, but they respawn all the enemies on the map, which is kind of weird. And all the health items are kind of a premium.
Yeah, well, so that's why I find it interesting to play on hard, is that it actually matters to me when I respawn the enemies.
Yeah.
If I've only kind of half cleared out a branch of the map, and I kind of have to think twice about whether I want to go back.
I'm thinking twice, but it's mostly because I just don't want to have to do the fights again.
I'm not getting a really overwhelmingly positive vibe from you, Eric.
I'm very disappointed. Like I have said, like SteamWorld Dig 2 is so fucking goddamn good. Is that still on here? I must.
And that grappling hook.
Yeah, I must have deleted it.
Play some Dig Dog.
I will. Hang on. I wanted to see if. Oh no, there it is, right there. Hell yeah. Fuck this. Yeah, I'll play some Dig Dog and then we can call it. That's a real short. That's almost nothing, honestly. I wanted to hear the menu music for this, but then I realized that I don't have the music.
We're not going to hear any music of any kind.
So speaking of playing games on hard mode, I started my hardcore run through my first hardcore run through Resident Evil 2, the new Resident Evil 2.
What does that limit you? Like, there's no saves, or like it's only temp saves?
The classic saves.
So yeah, it has a classic save mechanic.
Oh,
so
that's less hardcore than I thought it was going to be.
Well, I mean, considering that when you play it on normal now, it like you don't have ink ribbons, right? You can just save at any typewriter. But beyond saving at any typewriter, like the game also auto saves at random intervals, which are like pretty frequent. So it's a big change to be like, okay, now I have. Well, and also other items are replaced by those ink ribbons, right? Because there were no ink ribbons before. So now we're like, there used to be a green herb. There's an ink ribbon.
Okay.
So,
is it a hard difficulty level, or is hardcore just the saving mechanic?
No, it's a harder difficulty level. So you have fewer healing items. You have expendable items to save, and the enemies are really buffed. 2 zombie bites can kill you. 2 hits from Mr. X can kill you. I didn't even really waste time trying to take a hit from the first William Birkin fight because I didn't want to know how quick he would kill me. So it's and ammo. It's not just healing items. It's healing items and ammo, and just like things are replaced by ink ribbons, like sort of
right.
in random spots. So it's just like, if you're used to running through the game on normal and you're used to having a certain amount of resources, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this isn't going to work anymore because I thought a thing was here and it's not here. It's an ink ribbon. And I mean, broadly, I've been using the same strategy. So I've been using the infinite knife, but none of the other weapons I've unlocked, because to get the S+ rating, which you need to unlock some of the really cool sort of overpowered weapons, you can't use any of the bonus weapons except for the infinite knife. So I've been using the infinite knife, and it makes you. This is definitely not Dig Dog, by the way.
Well, you were talking about Resident Evil, so I figured I'd play this so that way.
You know, it makes you learn to use the knife in a very sort of functional and like the thing about Resident Evil 7 was when you right the thing about Resident Evil 7 was in the regular game you didn't really have to block. Like, there's a blocking mechanic, but you really don't have to use it, especially outside of boss fights. You know, it's just kind of there, and it can be helpful, but it's really not necessary. And then when you play the game on Madhouse, it's like, oh, I have to learn to block now, because like I will be fucked if I don't learn how to block. And Resident Evil 2 does the same thing with the knife, basically. Like, you can run through the game on the normal difficulty and really not use the knife very much. The expendable knives that you get are mostly good for keeping zombies off of you as defensive weapons. But on the hardcore difficulty, it's like, no, now you need to, like Eric said, kneecap them and then knock them down, cut their legs off, cut their arms off, and keep them down with the knife. Like that's your key to victory. Does
the board placement come into more? Is that more important in that version? Do you need to strategically place boards so that way you can?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. There have been a couple spots where I've been like, oh, I need to put a board here because if I don't, well, that goes back to sort of like, again, the enemies are way buffed, right? So if 2 zombie bites can kill you, which also translates to if one zombie is on you and another one, because you can get like double zombied. If that happens, you're just dead, right? So you want to not have a bunch of zombies pouring into certain areas, but also you have to kind of like you have to ration your boards and ration your ammo. So it's kind of like, if you're going through a place where you're like, I know I'm not coming back here, then like, who cares, right? Like leave the windows unboarded and don't shoot any of the zombies because you're never coming back. Like, but if it's a place that, like, if it's like one of the lower hallways where it's an area that's open to you immediately and you go back and forth through there a bunch of times, then it's like, yeah, this is like, I need to put boards on these windows or it's going to be a problem later. So I'm enjoying it, but I also like the old school Resident Evil games, and I could definitely see if you were a person who had not played the original Resident Evil 2 or any of the old style Resident Evil games, and we're coming into this as like a relatively new experience. Like, I could see not enjoying playing in this mode at all. Because there were some spots where I ran into a little bit of trouble, and I was like, if you were a person who wasn't enamored with this game and wasn't used to playing the games in this series in this style, you could make a pretty good case that like this is kind of frustrating and not that fun. So,
well, you're on an optional difficulty level.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So I don't know. I'm enjoying it. I'm sure I'll talk about that more. I'm also playing Devil May Cry 5, but I'm not very far into it yet. I'm only about 5 chapters in. So
the standard difficulty level in Resident Evil 2 does a really great job of like I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that it does a lot of like adjusting the amount of stuff that you have, like based on how much stuff how much stuff it offers based on how much stuff you have.
Right,
so,
right. The amount of bullets in an ammo pickup, for example. Yeah, it does that.
Because it means that it's like it makes you feel like you're under pressure without actually putting you under a tremendous amount of pressure.
Right. It does the adaptive difficulty thing.
Yeah.
That's what Dead Space always did.
Resident Evil 4 does.
Yeah. It does a good job of like hiding it, though. That's the important thing. It doesn't feel like it's doing that. Like you don't.
Right.
You're not. It doesn't surface it or make you notice it, but it just like almost everybody.
Right. Resident Evil 4 did the same.
Yeah. Almost everybody is like pretty low on ammo until almost the end of the game, and you have a ton of stuff left over. And it does a really nice job of making you feel it without actually making it impossible to finish the game.
Right. I guess I'm not sure, but I know that like so the way Resident Evil 4 works is when you play it on professional difficulty, it turns the difficulty scaling off. It basically turns it up as high as it goes, and then then the adaptive difficulty is gone.
Right.
That's what professional mode is in RE4. I don't know if that's what it's doing for this version of RE2. It does feel like in some places I'm getting ammo seems almost based on need, so that part of it is probably still turned on. I'm boring Kurt, apparently.
No.
It's been
a long week.
Yeah.
It's only Wednesday.
But it's a true story. But I think that it's still doing some stuff behind the scenes, but not the same amount of stuff on the hardcore difficulty. Because if you had no bullets, it would be pretty rough. But the strategy that I'm still sticking with, which worked for me on the normal mode, is like all the regular gunpowders that I get turned into pistol ammo, and all the fancy gunpowders I get turned into magnum ammo, and like that's it. Like if I find shotgun ammo, then I have shotgun ammo, but I'm not gonna use gunpowder to make shotgun ammo. So, and that's worked for me pretty well so far. So, I don't know.
Eric, what is happening in this game?
Yeah, I don't understand this game at all.
Well, it seems like you're just trying to get a bone, right? And once you get the bone, you've cleared
Can you
the
like
level.
fly away?
Bone hunt
Yeah.
hard, right? So I'll
Right.
go to the first level. So this game is kind of like Downwell is actually the thing that it reminds me the most of. Dig Dug and Downwell. So you're a dog.
Not a screen shake.
You're a dog, and you can do this.
You have guns on your
dash
feet.
thing. Yeah, you get guns on your feet, like all dogs do. All good dogs,
Right.
anyway. So no, you can dig. You can do a dash thing, which digs a bunch. You can jump up and knock blocks out. There's enemies all over the place, and your stated goal is to find the bone on each level and collect bones. I'm not sure exactly what you're collecting bones for.
Because dogs like bones.
I guess so, yeah. And the enemies with the yellow eyes have coins, and there's like a shop sometimes hidden in a level that you can find that will sell you certain items or for your health or whatever.
This does not look nearly as hard as Downwell.
Dude, I've only been getting like one bone per run. That's it. I died. It's over. It's just like it doesn't take very long to lose. But it's like
That dog
$3.
is weirdly
Somebody made it,
explosive.
the guy that made it had, I think, was diagnosed with like carpal tunnel syndrome or some RSI.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
he
yeah.
made it with like, I don't know if it was like
A voice to text
something
thing.
like
I
that.
saw that.
Yeah, and so that was why it came up. It was like $4 on the Switch store, and I used my Switch credits. my
Yeah, your
Nintendo
gold coins or whatever.
to
Yeah.
buy it, 'cause I wanted to check it out. I thought it's actually pretty clever. Like it does the thing. The other thing that Bauer borrows from Downwell is that like as you get bones, they cumulatively add up to give you more like color palette swaps that you
That's
can
cool.
have.
Oh, also like Downwell.
Right,
Yeah.
so it's like, it's whatever. It's like a 4-color game or whatever. Oh shit! Those guys are really hard to kill.
The guys with the spikes on their heads.
Yeah. Because the
Dash into
yeah,
them.
the dash is like really hard to control. But yeah, there isn't really a ton to this. It's just like a weird little fun thing. I'm surprised that it's not a phone game for like 99 cents or whatever. It seems like that's where this would make the most sense.
Not anymore, man. Not now that the Switch store exists.
I guess. I mean, maybe it is on mobile too. I don't know. Also, when you get the
Yeah,
bone, you
it's
fly
also
through the
could-
stage and destroy everything. That's pretty dope. Where's the store? Big jump. Hell yeah, I want that. I mean, I guess I'm jumping a little higher. Also, if you hit the button rapidly, you dig faster. I don't know. Anyway, that's Dig Dog.
Do you dig it?
It's fine. I haven't really. It seems like there needs to be a little more variety.
You got your $4 out of it.
Yeah, I might
I mean, it's worth it just for the animation when you get the bone.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
really
that's
the
that's
thing.
that's definitely the best part.
I don't know. I like dogs. I like digging for stuff. It's not as good as Steamworld Dig 2 in the digging category. Oh, there! I unlocked another color palette. Let's go check it out. Dig Dog. Also, the title's really good. That's a great name for a game. Also, it's very exciting.
It is.
Yeah, Dig Dog is a good name.
Bone
It
Dog.
has that kind of game jam thing if they probably came up with the name first.
Yeah. Dig Dog, Bone Dog, Game Dog.
I actually think it was a
Dog.
game jam game. I feel like I read.
Do that. You can also turn the screen shake down if you want. Although I don't know why you would do that.
I think some people get motion sick or it like bothers. You know, it like.
Yeah, but not in Dig Dog, you know.
Uh-huh.
I've seen those people shouldn't be allowed to enjoy Dig Dog.
Yeah.
Monsters.
I mean, they should be allowed to enjoy it if they want, but. Ooh, the coins are blue now. It's very exciting.
I'm excited.
Ah! Fucking spiky head guys. I hate them. Anyway.
Should not jump on them.
Sometimes they're hiding down inside the thing and you can't help it.
You should stop. You shouldn't rush, man. You
You
should.
gotta rush
take your
though.
time.
Actually, I feel like that might be the thing this game needs, is like some kind of time pressure or something. It feels wrong to play it methodically, but that would make more sense.
The smart way to go.
Yeah. I don't know. You guys been doing anything else interesting?
I played some Forager. I streamed that the other day. That's definitely the kind of game that is designed to make me happy. It's like it's got that kind of like slot machine feeling that you get out of a Diablo type game, where you just kind of keep pressing the button and you're rewarded by exploding trees and rocks, giving you items and lots of screen shaken, colorful pixel graphics. It is actually kind of interesting because it's got a lot more stuff hidden in it than you might initially think. It kind of looks like you're just going to strip mine the world and build stuff, but as you unlock different islands, like it expands your area that you have more and more, and sometimes they have like people on them or dungeons you can do, or I don't know, weird puzzles to figure out. So I don't know, so far it's kind of neat. I'm about 5 hours in, and it's the kind of game that I can sit down at and just like time dissolves and just look up and it's been 2 hours instantaneously.
Did you ever play that pixely Minecraft game that I can't remember the name of?
That's
Minecraft?
No, it's a 2D game.
Oh, Terraria?
Yeah.
Dig Dog.
I did not ever play Terraria. I don't know. I guess I probably should, but
I think I have that game
Yeah, I
from
feel
a
like
Humble
that's-
Bundle
yeah,
or
I feel like
something.
that's one that everybody owns. You probably own it. Like, you should check that out.
I probably do. But I'm not going to, because I'm going to play Forager.
Fair. I mean, you got Forager now. You might as well play that. But I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Sometime down the
It's
road,
pretty charming.
if you're looking for another one, supposedly that Terraria is pretty good.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, I think my impression of Terraria is that it's maybe a bit more of an investment, like a bit more involved.
In terms of like unlocking the crafting recipes and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like, I think it's maybe, I don't know, in-depth is quite the word for it,
Didn't
but
someone write about that game for us when we still had a website? Like when we did
is that one of the horror games?
No, I think it was when we did a month-long indie games thing, like once upon a time.
Got $5.
Could be. It has been around for a while.
No, but I don't. Searching on the Wayback Machine version of our page is not.
I
super
should give it a
efficient,
try,
so-
but I don't like the look of that game. I think I've always been put off by the.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't love
style.
the look of it either.
Like the pickaxe swinging animation sucks.
I just kind of realized just now that Forager is basically like, what if Minecraft was nuclear throne, and I think that's why I like it.
Oh wait, what?
No, wait, that sounds much better than what you were describing.
I mean, it looks a lot. It's a top-down game that looks a lot like Nuclear Throne,
Okay.
except that you're mostly like destroying trees and rocks to get items and stuff
Okay,
and build things.
gotcha.
But it has a bit of that kind of manic glee to it. Like, obviously in one of these games, what you're gonna do is gonna get a pickaxe and pickaxe upgrade so that it takes fewer hits to knock down trees. But my most recent pickaxe upgrade lights things on fire, so now I just have to hit everything once and I can let it burn. So I just kind of run around like a madman, hitting everything with my axe one time, and then everything starts exploding all over the screen.
Nice.
It's a
Nice.
good time.
Yeah, so I mentioned before that I also started Devil May Cry 5. I just got to the part where I can try the second playable character, which I'm told is pretty cool, but I haven't actually started the chapter where you play as him.
Is that the one with the controllable enemies?
Yeah, he's got like a panther and a
Got pets.
bird, and yeah, he's got pets. And apparently he can't do much of anything on his own. Like you have to use the pets to weaken everything, and then he just like deals the final blow himself. But playing as Nero is very similar to playing as Dante traditionally has been, although apparently you do unlock Dante at some point to play as him. So.
Dante is where the evolutionary third-person character action stuff is.
Yeah, well, I mean, playing the stuff as Nero already feels like a really good one of these. And like, I don't know that I would say it's like on a level of a Bayonetta or a Bayonetta 2.
Apparently, the
Yeah,
Dante stuff
but- Is it? Okay. I was gonna say, but it feels really good so far. Where I would say
it
it's
might be
like,
technical to a point that you're not. Maybe it's too like that's what I've heard. That Dante stuff is hyper technical. Oh god damn it! Oh,
yeah.
dig dog.
But I mean, I really like. I mean, again, I'm also a person who liked the last Devil May Cry game more than the one that came before it. So,
Four is so boring.
Yeah, I did not like 4. So, you know, I guess I don't know what that says about me necessarily, but I like it a lot so far. I like the feel of it. I like so Nero doesn't have his Devil Bringer anymore for like plot reasons, but he has a thing that basically still is the Devil Bringer because game mechanics like have to
It's
be,
a
you know.
demon buyer.
So yeah, right. But it's like a robot arm, and there's different robot arms that you can put on there that do different
They're all like
things, and so
disposable, right? All those items.
right. So they all do the thing where they'll reach out and pull an enemy towards you. Like they'll all do that thing.
Abracadabra.
Yeah, but then they all have different like attacks and different special attacks that destroy them because they're like disposable items that don't cost very much to replace. And so you kind of have to figure out like one of them will shoot like one of them you do like the special attack that destroys it shoots this ridiculous laser, and so like there's some boss encounters where it's like you do a thing and it stuns the boss, and it's like you can just fucking murder them with this laser when they're stunned and stuff like that. There's one arm that has a basic attack that can knock certain projectiles back at enemies and bosses, and so yeah, I don't know. I really enjoy it so far. I think it's definitely better than 4 and 2 for sure.
I ain't saying a lot.
Not saying a lot, but might be better than DMC. I don't know. I haven't played far enough in it to really make that assessment yet, but I like it. I don't know. Maybe I'll stream it next week or something.
Oh man, a wave dog.
Oh God. CGA dig dog.
Yeah, right.
Damn.
Looks like the Mega Man DOS game.
I think when I feel old compared to young gamers these days, one thing that I think about is that they'll never understand that we played games in CGA.
And it looked damn good.
No, they didn't.
No,
They
they
look
didn't.
they look like this.
No, this looks better than actual.
Although now this looks kind of like Alley Cat, which is I guess kind of cool.
Yeah, everything.
Playing a 4-color first-person driving game. Hours and hours of test drive on my PC.
I don't think I ever had a computer that did CGA though. I think I was just without a computer. You know what I mean?
Well, the computer that I had also did EGA, but because I was just kind of copying whatever games I could get my hands on, just a lot of the games were only in CGA, or the versions that I had were only in CGA.
Although the Macs we had at school were black and white for a long time.
Mm.
Right. I mean, the graphics looked pretty good because they were like, the monitors were like fairly high resolution by the standards of the time, but everything was in black and white.
I think Macs just jumped straight from black and white to reasonable color, didn't they?
Yeah, right. Well, they were
The Apple IIc.
Yeah, right. So we had Apple IIe's at school. Those were the original. Those were in color, but they were kind of shitty. And then I forgot what model it was that had the black and white. Like the old Mac Venture games were originally on. You know, where they displayed in black.
Isn't that
and
like
white.
the original
So
Mac?
Yeah, I think. Oh yeah, yes. The first Macintosh. That's right.
When like SimCity, the original one, was on that.
Yep. And that was in black and white.
1-color graphics or 1-bit
Yep.
graphics. I guess that's the same thing.
Yep. Yeah, these
Anyway.
kids today.
Buy Dig Dog and you can get some idea what it was like, except that we
Actually-
couldn't make the screen shake like that.
What we should do next week is play multiplayer online Excite Bike.
Yeah, we should.
Oh, we'll be able to do that.
Versus is coming to
Versus Excite Bike.
Switch.
All right, I'm into it.
Yeah.
I like Excite Bike. I hear it's like Trials.
Yeah, it kind of. Why is Star Soldier on here now? What the fuck?
Why not,
It's
man?
been on for a little while.
Is it?
Yeah.
Because it's an early NES game, and I guess for some reason it's easier to get the rights for those ones. I don't know.
Yes, Star Soldier.
Punch Out actually works surprisingly well on this. I didn't notice any. I made it to Soda Popinski without losing a match.
That's pretty good.
So
Yes, I don't like
It doesn't seem to be anyone's Punch Out though. Like, have they just disavowed Mr. Dream? Like they don't want anyone to know that it's Mr. Dream.
well, that's the way. I mean, if Eric goes back up, like that box art is accurate.
Yeah,
Like,
I have that.
Does it say featuring Mr. Dream?
so do I. No, it never said featuring Mr. Dream.
Doesn't it?
No.
That's just how people started referring to it after the fact to differentiate it from the Mike Tyson version.
Which they didn't
Oh,
have.
okay. It
never
It's
actually
called fucking
said-
Punch Out. It's not. The other one is Mike Tyson's
Yeah.
Punch Out, and this one's just Punch Out.
Right.
Now, if they bring Punch Out 2, I'll be interested.
Port the
Um,
arcade wrestling game to Switch. arm wrestling game. Sorry.
Was it called like
Yeah.
Space Punch Out or something like that?
Power Punch 2.
Did it ever get released?
Yes, and it's bad.
Whatever. I'm not paying for it. I just want to play it.
Sure. There are ways you can do that, Mike. Like, talk to me after the stream. Like, I'll hook you up if you really want to play Power Punch 2. Oh, that's another thing that I played actually before we
Power
go.
Punch 2?
That I don't. No.
That's how we know it's bad.
I backed a Kickstarter called Micro Mages a while
Oh,
back,
yeah, you were
which
telling me
is
about
a
this the other day.
brand new NES game. And so if you back the Kickstarter, they sent you. They didn't actually originally say they were going to send you a Steam key, but then they made a Steam version. So I got a Steam key. But more importantly than that, I got a code for itch.io where I could go and download the ROM and put it on my flash cart and
Nice.
play it on my NES. And it's pretty good. They did some interesting stuff where they made all of the base enemies and your characters are tiny. They're one tile.
So what was that 8x8 pixels?
Yeah, like 8x8 pixels, and then the bosses are like 4 or 8 tiles or whatever. They're like much bigger. But it's a 4-player action game, and it's a vertically oriented play style where the levels auto scroll up and you have to like bounce off walls, and you can charge your shot, and if you charge your shot and shoot down, you get like a little extra hop, like almost like
Oh, okay.
a double jump. And obviously I haven't had a chance to play it 4 players, but I played through the whole thing single player, and it was a lot of fun, and I think it would be a lot of fun with 4 players. And also the NES has a dearth of 4-player action games. There's one, and it's Nightmare on Elm Street. So
Isn't there a Gauntlet game on NES? Those 4 players.
oh yeah, actually I think you're right.
And
Gauntlet
Joe,
2,
please tell me you're not
Gauntlet
forgetting
2.
Ivan the Iron Man Stewart Super
That's
Off-Road
not
Racing.
an action game, it's a racing game.
That's action. That would have been considered an action game in the 80s.
No, wouldn't it? It would have been considered a racing game because that's what it is.
Racing games have a lot of
Come
action
on.
or whatever. Man, Star Soldier fucking.
All the
sucks.
action you
Why is
want.
that on here? Why would you waste a spot with Star Soldier?
I don't think the spots are finite, dude.
Why would you waste the 8 kilobytes on my Switch to put Star Soldier on here?
Do we need 2 Kid Icarai? I mean,
What's the?
There's
what's the-
3, I
I'm-
thought, isn't there
I'm
now?
confused.
Or no, there's 3 Metroids.
I feel
That's right.
yeah. There's a whole bunch.
There's
of
a third
Let's see what-
Metroid?
I wonder what
SP.
gives you the-
So they're like pre-made save states basically.
Right.
So like Zelda SP will start you
Oh, wow,
with
this is like,
everything that you can get. Yeah, this is it. It's Icarus fights Medusa Angels basically.
Oh wow, weird.
Is what the SP version of Kid Icarus is. One version of Metroid starts you at Norfair with like most of the upgrades, I want to say, and the other one starts you outside Ridley's Lair or something. I don't remember exactly.
See, that's not really what I like the idea of these
Um,
SP things, but I feel like they're not necessarily giving me what I want. Because like with
Well, right,
Metroid-
because they're not going to go to the trouble to actually like hack the game.
Yeah, I know. But
in
with
any-
Metroid, what I really want is just like to start at the beginning with a lot of health and stuff, so I don't have to. So I can like
grind for
Yeah, so I
health.
can like experience the game without having to find everything. Because like
take some of the tedium out.
yeah, like the whole
Right.
point of
Doesn't
playing-
Justin Bailey? What is Justin Bailey gives you the wave beam
Something
from
like
the
that,
from the
yeah.
get go, right?
Or like, the Blaster Master give me unlimited continues or something so that I stand a chance in
Make
hell
it
of
so that
ever
I don't
finishing
use
it.
my weapon when I get shot. That would be fucking fantastic.
Yeah. Maybe Blaster Master is actually not that good of a game.
The Blaster Master stinks.
It's
the first level of Blaster
I wouldn't
Master
say
is
it
super
stinks,
dope,
but
and then the
it's-
rest of it stinks. It's mind blowing
I think
when you switch perspectives, and then it's like after that you don't really want to play it anymore.
Even then, it's mostly just cool to tool around in the tank on that first level.
right. Honestly, I think that if they made it, if someone hacked it, and maybe I should look on romhacking.net, but like if someone made it so you didn't lose your power-ups when you took a hit, that would make all the difference in the world to me
Blaster
in terms of how
Master.
much fun Blaster Master is. Because it really sucks to power up your gun and then you take one hit and it's like, oh, it goes down. And then sometimes you just like you walk on the spikes or whatever and it's like, oh, that's cool. Like, and you're back down to your like basic pea shooter,
Yeah.
within moments, and it's like, this is not fun.
Eric,
And
that
also
on the
the
first
tank
screen.
parts are way more fun than the
I
overhead
can't. I
parts,
really
right?
struggle to play 2D games with Joy-Cons. I
Yeah,
don't like that.
that's
Weird. I find that D-pad is all right.
No, I can't.
It's
I tried to play
garbage.
Mario 3 the other
Sucks.
day and I couldn't.
It's not even a D-pad. It's 4 buttons.
Yeah.
Whatever. D-pads have been 4 buttons for like 15 years. Get over it.
I mean, I am over it. I bought a Hori left Joy-Con with a real D-pad, so that was how I solved that
Sounds
problem.
like you're under it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It seems like Mike is a Nintendo 64 controller apologist.
Who used the D-pad on the N64 controller?
Use the C buttons, right?
I don't think I ever. What? No, I used the joystick.
Well, if you're like strafing in GoldenEye, you need to use the C buttons.
But that's not a D-pad either. That's replacing an analog stick.
Look, I'm in a tank. Oh no, now I'm a guy.
Now I'm a little fragile guy.
Yeah.
I've heard that
I-
Monster Master Act Zero is
I
good.
forgot this game has fall damage.
Yes, it does. I haven't played Blaster Master Act Zero, but then the second one came out, and people were like, "Oh, there's another
Yeah,
one."
Supposedly people seem to like those, I guess.
Yeah, I get the impression that they're probably another kind of middle of the road Metroidvania.
I mean, I like Inti Creates does good games. Like I liked Curse of the Moon a lot.
I think Curse of the Moon is the best of theirs that I've played.
Mega Man 9 was real good.
Yeah. I guess I don't enjoy it.
Oh, I do. Mega Man 10, I can take or leave Mega Man 10, but
I like 10 better.
9.
Anyway, I'm gonna go to bed, so you guys can argue about which games are good and what's a D-pad.
I don't know. I saw everything I needed to see in Blaster Master, so I think we can just leave it now.
Yeah, I
Dog,
think we can call it a
dope.
night.
Steamworld Quest. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh,
I'll let you know if it
Micromages.
gets good. I'll stick with it a little longer.
Micromages is good. If you have an NES and a flash cart, you should go to their itch.io page and or you get the Steam version because apparently the ROM they put the ROM in the Steam file folder.
It's Kid and his
If
Frog.
you get that, so
No, Frog, come back. The greatest story ever told.
that's what I was thinking. All right, we calling it a night.
I am.
Yes.
All right. All right. Good night, everybody. Thanks for
Good
watching.
night.
We'll be back next week with something else.
Until Dig Frog comes out.